How was the Chinese economy able to grow and prosper strongly and quickly over the past years? Let me tell you, over the past 40 years, the global economic situation has been as follows. In the field of technology, the big companies with money were in Europe and the United States. It was the American companies that were innovating new technology in the field of manufacturing. This technology would later be taken and turned into industries and products manufactured in cheap countries or countries with low-cost labor. Of course, the ideal place at that time was China. In terms of distribution, these products were exported all over the world, and they would flood the markets with cheap goods. In terms of money, the large global companies were making a lot of profit, and the consumer was buying goods or products that were much cheaper. As for the developing countries, those that could provide very cheap labor were able to find a source of income to develop their local industries, and thus be able to provide a good standard of living for its people. In general, everyone was benefiting from this situation. Hello, our channel specializes in economics and online work. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and support us by liking the video. Let's start the story from the beginning. After the technology, manufacturing, and distribution we talked about, it was necessary for these countries exporting these cheap products to have a share or to consider having a share of this large market. And here I mean the market for luxury or high-end products. China has managed to advance in many technologies now, similar to Western countries, and perhaps even surpass them. It no longer only manufactures goods of poor quality and bad reputation. Yes, there are some industries of this type in China, but let me tell you that this matter is to cover something bigger, which is the advanced technology they have managed to acquire over the past years. China has now become an economic power in the most important industrial fields in the world. Here, I would like to pose two questions. The first question is whether the path China is taking now is the right one, which will lead the Chinese economy to further growth and prosperity. The second question is, what is the reaction of Western countries like the United States and Western European countries in the face of this prosperity and China's significant growth over the past years? Will China be able to operate if these large Western companies withdraw their investments from Chinese soil? And will the strict economic restrictions imposed by Western countries be enough to stop or at least slow down the pace of Chinese economic growth? Let's go back together to the year 1978. Here, China introduced a new law, a law for partnerships between Chinese companies and Western companies, that is, between Chinese companies and foreign capital. But at least this law allowed foreign capital to enter China, which helped in developing the local economy and also easing restrictions on the prices of goods there in China. The International Labor Organization found that Chinese labor or labor costs in China are 20 to 30% of labor costs outside China in Western or capitalist countries, and of course less than labor costs in the European Union and Japan. For example, ordinary advanced manufacturing was protected from Chinese outsourcing. This is because labor is a small part of manufacturing. For example, the aircraft industry relies on very advanced techniques and technology and requires a lot of expertise and scientific research. It also depends on people's trust in the product and the manufacturing company. Additionally, it requires much more advanced manufacturing equipment than what is available in the industry. Additionally, skilled labor was not available in China at that time. Therefore, it was easy for this type of advanced manufacturing to be done in the United States and Western countries rather than in China, because the technology was available, the labor was skilled, and they had significant experience. This is regardless of the labor wages there. However, if China could produce these products with high quality and lower prices, even the slight savings in labor cost would be very appealing. The question is, will China be able to continue and compete in this field? This is especially relevant if Western countries withdraw their investments and industries from its territory. The answer to this question can be found if we look at China's rise in the hierarchy of services. It is true that China is the workshop of the world. China is now engaging in more advanced manufacturing, such as design, development, scientific research, as well as marketing and internal management. Of course, this is very serious talk, very serious indeed. For countries that have monopolized this type of industry for years, today Chinese companies are present in every field and everywhere, even beyond China's borders. An example that shows us where Chinese companies have reached now is the Chinese company Huawei. Huawei is a multinational Chinese technology company that provides a very wide range of information and communication technology infrastructure. The growth, prosperity, and expansion of the company has been so significant that it literally surprised competitors to the extent that some countries have issued specific laws to curb this giant company. Of course, we are talking about this because these countries had security concerns and risks regarding Chinese technology, and the truth is that these concerns and risks are justified. And this is a problem that the Chinese economy and Chinese industries must solve if they want to expand significantly in these countries. For example, in 2020, the UK decided to ban the Chinese company Huawei from using its mobile networks. Also, in 2021, Danish legislators passed a law allowing the examination of foreign investments to ensure that they do not pose any danger or threat to national security. Additionally, we see that in 2020, the French authorities informed telecom operators who intended to purchase equipment from the Chinese company Huawei that they would not be allowed to renew the licenses for this equipment. This means the gradual withdrawal of the Chinese company Huawei from this country. Certainly, talking about any Chinese products or services posing a threat to the national security of these countries can be true. But the question now is how these new Chinese companies managed to establish themselves against global companies and the international industrial community. I would say that a large part of this is directly related to government support. The Chinese government support for its startups is significant, and here we find organizations like Stanford monitoring this Chinese development for a long time. And their results say that since 2007, China has asked companies listed on the stock exchange to announce their direct government support. We will find that from 2008 to 2018, during these 10 years, Chinese government support for startup companies increased from $4 billion to approximately $20 billion. In fact, other than the poor industries, China has another problem. And this problem was applied in many industries within China, which is the problem of technology theft. Let me explain to you. If a company manufactures a product, for example, inside China, of course, since it is a foreign company, the conditions in China stipulate that it must work with a local Chinese partner. Here we find that these Chinese companies, in many cases, transfer this technology from the Western company and reverse engineer it, and the Chinese company manufactures the same product with higher efficiency and quality, and of course, at a much lower cost. After that, it promotes it in the markets with a mark, its own brand, and of course this is against export control laws. Even Tesla, let me tell you, a large part of its technology is now in China. The technology went to China because of the same problem, and of course this greatly affects the marketing of the original brand's products. Here we take the example of the Chinese car company BYD. Of course, this company is one of the largest manufacturers of electric cars in the world. We find in European countries and countries like Australia, for example, that the BYD electric car has occupied a very large part of the local market there, larger than the share of Tesla. Indeed, we find that America has begun to impose many restrictions and trade barriers on China and impose many sanctions and taxes on China. But despite the fact that the United States of America is actually the largest global economy now, it cannot impose restrictions on other countries to prevent them from buying Chinese products. The problem now with the major industrial countries is that despite the imposition of these restrictions and these barriers, China is growing significantly and continuously. China now has the largest trade benefit of all the countries of the world. For example, we find that in July 2024, the trade benefit in China was $99 billion, a trade benefit only in the year. Of course, this angers many countries and leads to the imposition of more trade restrictions on China. The excuse used by Western countries is that China is flooding the world with cheap and poor quality products. For example, solar cells are among the products that have seen increased demand over the past 10 years. We find that China is one of the largest producers of this type of cells globally. The European Union has extended its anti-dumping measures for these products, but the truth is that these European steps haven't made a significant difference. For example, we will find that from 2022 to 2023, these products and their imports decreased by 9%. But in contrast, you will find that other countries such as Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Malaysia, and Pakistan also increased their imports from China in this sector by more than 100% in 2023. So this makes 9% of the EU restrictions worthless. Let's say that the West's resistance to the Chinese monster can slightly kickstart the Chinese industry, but it cannot stop it completely because in reality the Chinese product is very good and at a lower price for many consumers in the world. For consumers, it's better to get a slightly higher quality product at a much lower price. In the end, if China can maintain its growth and manufacture products that can match the quality of other competitors while of course being much cheaper, then no country will be able to stand against the Chinese market, because at that point China will be stronger than ever. Finally, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. I'll see you in the next video.